Please.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, sir.
Shashwat.
Yes, sir.
Just quickly your meaning of your name.
So Shashwat essentially means something that is immortal,
Hence,
something that never ends, something that remains in permanence.
okay. What way you will remain immortal or permanent?
Sir, I believe that human beings cannot remain immortal per se. That is the basic truth of life. So, but my understanding is that ideas can remain immortal.
Ideas. Very good. ठीक. You have studied, you have taken politics as a subject, right?
Yes, sir.
Is politics is a science? You say na political science. We understand physics, chemistry, geology, botany, this and that. These are the sciences. How the politics is a science? Whether it is science or not first. If it is, how?
Sir, my understanding is that politics is indeed the science. Sir, politics is the science of behavior, also at times called as behavioral science, wherein we study the role of power in our society from the understanding of human beings. And since we study human behavior, there are various interdisciplinary subjects like psychology, sociology, which play an interplay in the study of politics, making politics a science.
Okay. You have worked as assistant to some member of parliament, right?
Yes, sir.
See, recently there was a row of an MP sharing her password and other details to outsiders outside the parliament domain, and she has been suspended from the parliament. What is the whole controversy about?
So the Honorable MP Shri Mahua Moitra was initially alleged to share her login credentials of the Lok Sabha intranet to one of the businessmen who filed questions and other details on her behalf on the Lok Sabha portal. So the ethics committee took up the issue and found it as a breach of the Lok Sabha code of conduct, and as a result, the respective MP had been suspended for the same, sir.
See, most of our members of parliament, they are not computer literate.
Yes, sir.
And everything is happening on computers these days. So necessarily they have to share their password, login ID, password to their staff.
Yes, sir.
And staff is not regular staff. They are not regular employees also most of the time. Not all of them. So in any case, password has to be shared. Whether to share your to the staff who is not a real government employee, or to an outsider who is again not a government employee. How does it differentiate? You have to, the MPs do not put in their login details themselves. They have to share. So what is the big thing about it?
Sir, in my understanding, the ethics committee took the consonance of the issue that the respective person who is a businessman was an external entity to the office of the respective MP and was not a full-time employee of the respective MP's office. For instance, sir, as a legislative assistant, even I was required to fill question hour on the behalf of my MP, but I was enrolled as a full-time staff in the respective MP's office. But in this case, sir, firstly, sir, the respective person was a businessman. Secondly, sir, he was not an authorized entity on behalf of the MP or the government or the Lok Sabha Secretariat to fill those details on that behalf. This put risks, sir, on the issue of influencing the overall functioning of the parliament, the overall output that the MP have in the parliament, and the overall influence that any external interests can have in the functioning of the MPs.
The whole issue is of sharing the login ID details or influencing the MP. There are two things.
Yes, sir.
Sharing of the details to outsiders is very common. Outsider means the who is not a government employee.
Yes, sir.
And a person working with MP, not a government employee, is an outsider.
Yes, sir.
MP has authorized him or her. Similar way, this honorable lady also authorized the person. Authorization is same. Sharing of the details is same. The issue is sharing of details or issue is interference in the inner working. What is the issue exactly? What did the ethics committee, how they took up the issue?
So the report of the ethics committee has not been made public yet. However, sir, the ethics committee, in what the deliberations came out in the public domain, found that because the businessman was not an authorized person on behalf of the Lok Sabha Secretariat, the sharing of the login credentials to an external entity was a breach of the parliamentary rules of conduct. So, sir, in my understanding, the two issues, though different, are interrelated, wherein if login IDs are shared to external interest groups by the respective MPs, though even after his or her authorization, without consonance of the Lok Sabha Secretariat, can pose certain risks to the freedom of the MPs and the freedom of the legislators per se to put their views in the parliament, and can influence the overall parliamentary activities as well.
See, Lok Sabha Secretary will not authorize any person other than the government employee. Right? The secretary doesn't know who is he. But the people working with the MP, all the MPs are outsiders also who are not government employees.
Sir, in this case, sir,
And ID login passwords are shared with them. So what is the difference between the two? And how serious was the issue? Whether issue was sharing of details or issue was interference?
Sir, in my understanding, sir, there can be a specific rule that can be added in the Lok Sabha Code of Conduct, wherein if a specific MP is giving login credentials to any external employee, that detail can be shared to the Lok Sabha Secretariat on a letter so that the respective information remains in the public domain.
Okay. Have you been to some villages or tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities recently?
Sir, recently I have not been able to, but in the past, sir, I have been.
Maybe about 6 months back or so, like that, right?
Sir, about 2 years back, sir.
How did you find the cleanliness there in that city or village or town, whichever?
So the sanitation of the villages have improved successively in recent years, especially after the onset of the Swachh Bharat initiative. We see that the twin pit toilets have become the new talk of the town, where people are building cost-effective toilets in order to avoid open defecation. Secondly, sir, the overall waste management in the rural areas have also improved.
See, why I'm asking is this: has the Swachh Bharat campaign has made India Swachh, and to what extent? If you go just 5 kilometers away from this place, it is as filthy as it was. Has it put any impact on Swachh Bharat?
Sir, my understanding is that Swachh Bharat mission has made tremendous impact on the ground in terms of cleanliness. Firstly, sir, it has made India 100% ODF free, which means that open defecation at the first level has been successfully achieved. Secondly, sir, it has also caused a behavioral change in the mindset of people, wherein a lot of people who were initially very prone to throwing the wastes on road have now been behaviorally converted to becoming more cleanliness friendly. However, sir, as you mentioned, there are indeed challenges with respect to waste management we see. For instance, the grey water management, the liquid waste management, as well as the piling up of wastes in the form of waste mountains in these urban areas. These are continuous challenges that we have to tackle.
Okay. One political party says that they will give everything free after the elections, and they give many things free also. The other political party challenges it and say this is bad. But at the same time, they also say food free. We are feeding 80% population free food and all that. Both the parties doing the same thing, and they are criticizing each other. Should we give these things free? And what is this controversy about?
So the essential controversy is about the freebie culture, which our Prime Minister also called as the Revadi culture. So I think the problem is not with respect to any specific political party, but with respect to the overall political culture per se, where freebies on ground have become a norm, and any political party does not have the willpower to take the political risk of not giving the freebies in the elections. So my understanding is that we have to focus on long-term policy measures, for instance, focusing on education, promoting SHG-led development, focusing on healthcare, so that these freebies, people would eventually move their understanding from these freebies to more impactful ways of living.
Okay. Your subject is international relations also.
Yes, sir.
What do you mean by relations between the two countries? Relations between brother, between sister, brother, between two people is understood. Relations between the countries are like known entities. What do you mean by relations between them?
Sir, in international relations, relations is essentially a hypothetical term that denotes the overall relations between two societies per se. For instance, if let's say India and United States, they have a trade between the two countries, then we call it as trade relations. Similarly, if there is a consonance of the views of the political leadership with respect to strategic thinking, we can call it as political relations. Similarly, so there are people-to-people ties among the people who are living across the borders. So that can be called as the cultural and the social relations among the countries. So though not a real term denotation, but it is a hypothetical term that denotes the relations between societies.
Okay. What is a pearl of strings in Indian Ocean? What do you mean by pearl of strings in the Indian Ocean?
So the concept of pearl of strings was given by a famous American scholar who ideated that there are ports and there are regions in the Indian Ocean region that are being now built by Chinese as infrastructure projects only to be converted into strategic and military objectives in future. For instance, the Hambantota port in Sri Lanka, the Kwak Phu port in Myanmar, the Lamu port in Maldives, one in Somalia. So these are some of the ports that are now considered as the ways China is trying to encircle its strategic influence around India in the Indian Ocean.
Is India also doing something?
So India is also trying to build close relations with the countries in the Indian Ocean region. For instance, India has a very close relation with Mauritius, and India is also building one of the ports in the region. Recently, sir, in Iran also, the Chabahar port was signed, which India was building, which has recently got stalled. In Myanmar also, India is also having close relations through the what is called as the IMT Trilateral Corridor in terms of the infrastructure project locally.
Okay.
Shashwat, I see you have appeared twice for CDS.
Yes, ma'am.
But not later after 2021. Why not?
Ma'am, for the simple reason that I could not clear the exam.
But that even lets you with other entries to go through. You could have tried through engineering, direct entry, technical entry or something like that.
Yes, ma'am. My background was primarily not in the engineering field. I came from a social science background, and initially CDS was the only way that I could.
And CET?
I was not aware about that, ma'am.
So you did had influence towards defense services?
Yes, ma'am. Initially, when I was preparing for the government services, I planned to give some of the examinations of defense services as well. However, afterwards I decided that I would only go for the civil services.
And you did not clear, like you went for SSB?
No, ma'am.
Okay, you could not clear the written itself.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can you name all three service chiefs?
Ma'am, I don't recall the name as of now. I'll have to read more about that.
Okay. So, do you think there is a problem of population that India is facing? Does India have problems in terms of population?
Ma'am, my understanding is that indeed a large population like that of India, which has now become the largest population in the world, is problematic in terms of providing them the respective public services, ensuring sizable income, among others. However, we must see the population challenge in terms of the potential that it has. For instance, India's population problem is also a demographic potential, which we have in terms of the dividend it can have with a large youth population. Secondly, ma'am, India has also succeeded in reducing its total fertility rate from that of 3.5 and 3.6 in 1990s to that of 2.1 recently. So in that context, India has indeed tackled the population challenge successfully.
So do we also need to follow China's lead in controlling population? Or there are other measures in your mind?
My understanding is that China's way of one child policy has failed in all its purposes. Initially, because now the overall demographic imbalance in China is quite visible, where the old population is vis-a-vis very high compared to the young population. Secondly, ma'am, my understanding with respect to India's population policy is focusing more on women education as well as women health, because we have seen, especially in some of the northern states as well, that as women are educated, they tend to have more spacing among the kids as well as less number of kids. So the overall challenge of population is tackled automatically in that regard.
And the gender ratio problems in our belt of Haryana, UP. So how do we curb that?
Ma'am, there are two dimensions to the gender ratio issue in Haryana and other developed states. The first is technological, wherein the ease in the availability of the preconception and prenatal detection of children is a problem. Firstly,
but aren't those states like otherwise laid back And you mean to say that technology has advanced in particular that they could know the, what is the gender of the child before, and every state has this facility available. Why only those?
Ma'am, definitely the cultural specificities and the social stigmatization, the inherence of the patriarchal attitude is very prominent in these states. That is to be noted. For this, the government has also launched schemes like Beti Padhao and Beti Bachao Abhiyan. But apart from that, we also need to focus that these are the states which have relatively higher per capita income vis-a-vis some of the other states like Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh. Yet the sex ratio is very problematic. So we have to see it in a very holistic perspective, and technology has played a very vital role because people, even those who have higher incomes, are using these technologies to detect the babies even before the delivery.
What relation does it lead to, like higher per capita income and the gender of the child?
When a family has a higher per capita income, indeed it is seen that women are the first sufferers of their employment. For instance, in the rural areas, we see that the labor force participation rate of women is higher compared to the urban areas. The reason being that women are more employed in agriculture and other services. But as the society, as the family's income increases, it is seen that the families consider women should not work per se, because the male supreme can indeed bear the entire responsibility of the family. So it is seen as a social stigmatization if the women of a family works in some of those culturally backward families.
I am sorry, but I'm not able to get your point.
Ma'am, my point is that when the income of a family increases, even if a woman is working, generally it is seen that since the male breadwinner can earn for the entire family, it is not necessary for the women to work. And as a result of which, the labor force participation rate in the urban areas
But my
is very
question is, how is it related to finding out the gender of the fetus?
Because when the incomes of the families are higher, the access to technology through the allocation of capital is much greater.
Okay, shall let it be. Okay, what do you think is the most important quality for a civil servant to possess?
Ma'am, there are various qualities that a civil servant shall possess. The first is the inherent qualities of discipline. The second is the quality of discipline. Second is the quality and the ability to take a decision
The
and
question
stand.
is not about so many qualities.
Most important quality to possess. Should be one.
Ma'am, the most important quality I would say would be integrity.
Okay, and what are your strengths and shortcomings?
Ma'am, my strengths are firstly that I have good negotiation and good communication skills, as a result of which I can communicate to people from all stratas of our society. Secondly, ma'am, I also believe that I have as I was speaking before, I have the ability to take a decision and stand by it no matter what, and take accountability for those actions. As far as, ma'am, my shortcomings are concerned, ma'am, I believe that I still am a bit emotional and get carried away by some of the emotive issues that happen in our society. So yes, ma'am, these are the things.
Sir.
See, you mentioned that there you have seen waste management system in rural areas.
Yes, sir.
What kind of system did you find in rural areas, waste management?
So one of the ways is what is called as the bio-waste management, where the people segregate their the biodegradable and non-biodegradable waste and put the bio-waste management through various.
Are you sure?
Yes, sir.
This we don't find in the cities.
Yes, sir. This is no.
But you find in the rural area.
In the rural areas, sir, it is more accessible because people can create these waste management circles in their fields itself. In the cities, because of the crunch in the land availability, there has to be waste management centers that have to be
Can
built.
you name a village? Probably you must have visited a couple of years ago.
Sir,
Do they have this kind of waste management system?
So there in Uttarakhand, there is a specific village, sir, its name is Devi Khet, and they follow the waste management model. In fact, its waste management model is quite famous, wherein they convert the bio-waste into fuels and they use it for a sustainable purpose.
Okay, but is it prevalent all across Uttarakhand?
No, sir, it is not prevalent all across Uttarakhand, but it is now being opted on a greater scale.
Okay. And still, I really wish to disagree with you that the higher the income of the family, they have access to the gender determination kind of thing in the technology in the society. It is prohibited in our country that pre-birth you cannot decide the gender of a child.
So that is true, sir. Sir, I
But it is still available to them, and they go and get the gender determined.
Sir, you are completely correct, sir. Under the PCP and DT Act of 1994, the determination of the sex of a child is prohibited. However, sir, there are illegal measures that are still prevalent in some pockets. And I'm not saying, sir, that this is highly prevalent.
We are talking about specifically the Haryana, where the gender ratio is very, very important. And the female-male ratio has been very, very skewed.
Yes, sir.
So, do you think it is because it's close to the capital, close to the, and it's quite a developed society economically?
Yes, sir. So that was
Is that the only region, or is there some other region?
no, so that is not just the reason. There are various other reasons. For instance,
I wish to know two regions. But what is the reason? Why don't they prefer the girl child?
so first is the patriarchal attitude and the social stigmatization with respect to having a girl child. The reason being that we are having missing women, wherein people keep on having babies till they have a male child. So one of the reasons is this.
That means number of females in the society should have been higher until they go get a child.
No, sir, but the point is that when they have one male child, then they refrain from having another child. So
no, but if on the other way around, if the family doesn't have a male child, they keep on producing girls. So the number of girls should be more in the society, isn't it?
So
your theory?
That 50% of the children are male and 50% of children are females. If 50% of males are born and the family is restrained from having another child, then that can cause demographic imbalance when the rest of the...
But what, my dear sir, no. What do you think is the region in this society, in this kind of society?
So my understanding is that the inherent issue is the social psyche of having a patriarchal mindset. That is the first cause. And so the second cause is the range of other services that have come up, especially in the range of technology, that have allowed the knowing the gender of the child prior to the birth.
Once this has been prohibited, sex determination prior to birth, once it has been prohibited, probably the gender ratio in Haryana has improved. So that negates your theory that access to the technology, one. Other thing is that, there is certain governments are coming with a policy that you cannot have more than 2 children. Do you have any take on that? Especially the UPA government is coming out about this and proposed to come out about this policy to control the population.
Sir, I would like to address both the dimensions of your question. The first was that I just recalled, sir, that even in states like Haryana and Punjab, because these are the states where migration is very huge. So especially male migration from the states like UP and Bihar to Haryana and Punjab is very high, as a result of which the overall sex ratio is affected in the favor of males. So because the migration of males from UP and Bihar to these states is very high, the overall sex ratio is affected in the favor of males.
They are not counted in the population of the country. Census, they are counted in the state, their own states. They don't become the resident of the Haryana and Punjab.
Sir, if they take up the Aadhaar card of Haryana or Punjab, then even they would be counted in the census as the origin of those states only, sir, as per my limited knowledge.
You must check it out.
Sure, sir. Secondly, sir, the problem of having whether there should be a government policy in terms of...
and mind it, they come with the family. Now they are shifting to Punjab and Haryana with the families. They bring their children and wives also. So when if it is counted, by and large the ratio remains the same. But still...
sir, as far as the policy of having more than 2 children and restricting the same is concerned, so my understanding is that the direct measures of coercion has not been successful as we had been trying them since 1960s and 70s. So instead of going through that route, we should follow what has been successful after 1990s and 2000s, wherein we have successfully focused on women education and women employment, and that has directly reduced the total fertility
You
rates.
mean to say that bringing legislation is a bad idea?
Sir, I would say that we should bring policy in terms of promoting women education and women health rather than focusing on population control.
Not on controlling. And how do you say that in number of more people in the society is going to be an asset? See, simply producing a child, does it become an asset? Or if you add value to the child, then it becomes an asset?
Sir, you have very rightly pointed this out. We simply having empty hands is not going to help us in our own economic development. we need to give them the respective skills, the necessary value systems, as well as the necessary ways and means with which they can prove to be a working hand and prove to be a necessary helping hand for the society. So we have to focus on addressing the skill deficit challenge as well to tackle the demographic issue.
Okay. Shashwat, you said your name means immortal.
Yes,
There
sir.
is a better word to define it in English.
Sir, I don't recall this.
Eternal.
Yes, sir. Probably, sir.
So, is it related to some kind of divine qualities?
Sir, indeed, Shashwat was used in the in as a predecessor to the name of gods like Rama and Shiva in our Vedas. Indeed, it may reflect some eternal qualities, sir.
Okay. You come from Varanasi.
Yes, sir.
We are hearing about Varanasi on regular basis in news. So, is it all hype or really there is some development taking place on the ground? Give some examples.
Sir, Varanasi has seen tremendous strides of development in last few years. Firstly, sir, there is an inbuilt promotion of cultural heritage of Varanasi. For instance, the Kashi Vishwanath corridor, the building of the Varanasi Convention Center, the beautification of Sarnath are some of the measures. Secondly, sir, the infrastructure in Varanasi has tremendously improved.
Define the importance of Varanasi from the cultural point of view, pure cultural point of view.
Sir, I would like to borrow what Mark Twain had famously said of Varanasi, that Varanasi is not just older than legend, it is not just older than history, but probably it is older than both of the two combined. So when you visit the Ghats of Varanasi, you would recognize that some aspects of this cultural ethos has been existing for thousands of years.
Let me be more precise. Name some personalities which were related to with the areas like dance, drama, music, who comes from Varanasi.
So the first name that I can recall is the famous Shehnai Vadak Bismillah Khan, who came from Varanasi. He is one of the names that is coming to my mind. The second is the famous Tabla Vadak, I think Kishan Maharaj. He is from also the famous Banaras Gharana. And Sir Rajan Sajan Mishra. These are two singers.
Do you know something about Ganga Jamuni Tehjeeb? Is there any such thing in real or is it something created?
So the Ganga Jamuni Tehjeeb essentially came as a reflection of the syncretic culture that exists in the Purvanchal region and the Awadh region, wherein people, both from the Hindu and the Islamic identity, find a common cause and a coming together of the two cultures.
Okay. Political science is your subject, right?
Yes, sir.
Any thinker whom you can recall and talk about?
So there are many thinkers I can recall, but one of them that I can closely recall is John Locke.
Okay. What does he say?
So John Locke essentially gave the theory of natural rights, who espoused that the rights of life, liberty, and property are permanent and are divine rights of human beings, and not even state should take them away.
So if there is divine theory of kingship pitted against his views by the French people when they were before revolution, pre-1789, how would you interpret Locke's theory or principle of natural rights?
So Locke questioned the divine theory of rights by arguing that the overall heredity, the concept of heredity that exists in the divine theory, that the king is the heredity.
He has the divine right to rule.
Yes, sir. He has the divine right to rule is essentially scientifically not logical.
Locke's views somehow match with the views of other political thinkers. Can you name two such thinkers?
So one of the closest thinkers that John Locke's view match is that of Hobbes, though there are some close differences as well. For instance, both are contractualist and gave the famous social contract theory.
Right.
So second is J.S. Mill. For instance, even John Locke propounded liberty as one of the natural rights, and even J.S. Mill gave the famous theory of liberty.
How his views resembles with the views of Rousseau? Can you pronounce the full name of Rousseau correctly?
So it's John Jacques Rousseau.
No, it's Jacques. Jacques is actually French, so they pronounce it in a very different manner. Okay, so Rousseau and Locke, what is this the connection in their theories or principles?
Sir, I think both the closest relation that I can think of is that both Locke and Rousseau talked about freedom as a very close human nature. For instance, even Rousseau claimed that man is born free, yet everywhere he is in chains, recognizing the importance of freedom in human life. And even Locke focused about having freedom as one of the core natural rights of man.
Okay, so you have studied development and labor studies during your post-graduation from JNU.
Yes, sir.
So can you name 5 important personalities who are the alumnus of JNU serving in different areas today?
So one is our Honorable Foreign Minister, Shri Jaishankar. So second is our Honorable Finance Minister, Ma'am Nirmala Sitharaman. So third is the famous researcher and esteemed historian, Rumila Thaparji. So fourth, I can recall.
She's the alumnus of JNU. She has been the professor in
Yes,
JNU.
sir. I'm sorry, sir. I would like to take back that answer of mine.
Okay.
So that these are the 2 names I can recall. Rest, there are other social scientists also who have studied in JNU and have went on to become professors.
Sitaram Yechury is also
Yes, sir. Sitaram
Prakash
Yechury.
Karat is also there.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Nakrat
sir.
is there.
Thank you,
There are
sir.
so many names. Okay. Anyways, one last question I want to ask. BA Honours Political Science from University of Delhi. College is Maharaja Agrasen.
Yes, sir.
Who was this Maharaja Agrasen?
So Maharaja Agrasen was a legendary king of 3000 BC who ruled over the city of Agroha in Haryana and was the...
Who are the people who revere him?
So generally they are from the Agrawal community, the Bania community, who considered him to be his the hereditary king.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.